Hello, we are here with Gabe, Beetle spelled backwards.
Eltaeb.
Eltaeb.
My old friend Mike knows it's Eltaeb. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I was like, yeah, it's got to be like that.
My dad's from Libya. That's actually a French translation of Ataib. It means servant of God. That's what it means in Arabic.
Oh, cool,
so
cool.
Eltaeb in French, then turned into English. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, we will. I guess we'll play our intro real quick, and then we'll get going.
All right.
Right. There we go. Mike, you want to introduce your buddy? I know you've done a lot of stuff with him, and you know him fairly well.
Gabe Eltaeb is an old friend of mine. I first met him here in Fort Collins. Gabe lived in Greeley at the time, and he was interested in working in comics. He was already a pretty good illustrator. Nobody knew he was going to become one of the greatest colorists who ever lived. And we would hold monthly conclaves here at my house in Fort Collins. And Gabe was a regular, as was Joe Arnold, who's now a police officer and the artist of Thin Blue Line graphic novel, which we're working on. After a while, Gabe moved to California, and he started going to work for DC, where I think he probably became their top colorist. All you have to do is look at his work, and it's just astonishing. Last week, Gabe announced on Ethan Van Sciver's program that he was quitting DC in protest for the bizarre and inexplicable changes they were working on their legacy characters. And Gabe agreed to meet with us here today.
Yeah, well, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I remember when I met you. I'd been wanting to get into comics for so long. Since I was like 12 or 13, I saw X-Men #1 by Jim Lee. What is that, 1991 or 92? I was just a kid. I was a middle schooler. And I was at my friend Sean's house, and I saw that cover with the Beast. It's the cover E. There were multiple covers. Mm-hmm. And I said to Sean, what is this? Because I didn't read comics. I knew they existed, and I loved to draw. And he explained to me, oh, there's a new X-Men. So in that moment of seeing Jim Lee's drawing of the Beast, I'm like, oh, I have to be Jim Lee. I have to do this. So I started tracing all his drawings and just obsessively. My mom had to start taking me to the comic book store, and I would use my money from. I had the classic American job of throwing newspapers, and I also mowed yards. In Southern California, there's a lot of yard work. My cousin owned a yard business. So even starting as a 12-year-old, I would work like an 8-hour day with my brother and my cousin. We would mow like 20, 30 yards in a day. All this money is just going to comics. I became obsessed. So, jumping forward many years, in 1998, I found Wildstorm. I found their office. It was where I lived in San Diego. I didn't know it was right here. I was reading Wizard magazine, and they had done an interview at Wildstorm, and they were. I saw a picture of Sandra Hope in the magazine, and out the window behind her was the Colonial Hotel in La Jolla, California. I'm like, I know where that is.
He's like,
we go down there. So I go down there, holding the magazine, looking up, and I look in the one window, and there's a like a 6-foot cardboard cutout of Spartan, the leader of the Wildcats, Jim Lee's Wildstorm book.
Great.
I'm like, that's got to be it. And I walk to the bottom of the La Jolla Bank building, 888 Prospect Street. They're no longer there, so don't even bother going. Everything's in Hollywood now. But I go there to the bottom of the bank building, and I see Carlos de Anda. I didn't know it was him, but I saw a young Mexican kid with a ponytail. I still tease him today about the ponytail, flipping an engineering pencil in his hand. And he's going into the cafe on the first floor. And I run up and ask him, I say, hey, do you work at the comic book place? So he took me upstairs. I met, I think Adam Hughes was there, and J. Scott Campbell was there, and Travis Schray. All my favorite guys were there. I couldn't believe what was happening, because I was obsessed with comics, but I was obsessed with Wildstorm. That was my studio. So jump forward. That was 1998. Jump forward. I'm in college, and I'm always hanging out on the internet on the Image Comics message boards and the Brian Michael Bendis message boards. That's when I got to know Ethan Van Sciver on the Brian Bendis boards. But I did a little bit of work for Image by insinuating myself into like, hey, can I draw a pinup for your comic? The first published work I ever did in a real American comic book is a pinup in Invincible 15, Robert Kirkman's book. And I did a pinup for Fury Agent. Is that a real book by Rick Remender and Tony Moore?
Fear Agent.
It's been like 16 years, 17 years. I don't remember what it was called. Fear Agent. And I did a pinup for like Phil Hester. I did a pinup for Mike Barron and Mike Norton on Nightclub. By the way, Mike, Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder have a new book called Nightclub. I've texted you twice about it, and you haven't answered me.
Oh, Gabe, I never check my text. I mean, it's a miracle I can even get on this computer. Thanks for letting me know, but always email me or else I'll miss it.
Okay. So anyway, I'm in college. I'm working for the largest Halloween prop and mask person in America. He went to my college. He's older than me. His name is Ed Edmonds. He has a company called Distortions Unlimited. And if you go to a haunted house and there's those pneumatic like monsters, Ed made them. All those like aliens and monsters and werewolves you see in haunted houses. He's the biggest guy in America making those. And anyway, so I worked for him as a designer. I worked for the Greeley Tribune as a newspaper, as a graphic artist. I did a comic strip in college. At Comic-Con in 2000, I met Frank Cho, one of my favorite illustrators. And I said to him, how did you get into comics? Because he had just broken in, but he was making just such a splash. And he said, I did the comic strips at the University of Maryland. And I said, okay. So when I went back to school a month later in August, I walked into the school newspaper and I had a paper in my hand. And Dave Stevens was the editor. He was a classmate of mine. I said to him, your jokes aren't funny and they're poorly drawn. I'm funny and I can draw. So they hired me on the spot. So I did that for 2 years and won every award possible. I won the highest award in America, the first place for a Golden Circle from Columbia University 2004, and dozens of other awards for my comedy writing. So whenever my wife is mad at me and says, you're not funny, I say, I have documentation.
Yeah.
Unlike most people, actual documentation that I'm funny. Yeah. And so right around that time, 2003 or 4, something like that, when did The Detonator come out, Mike, from Image?
Oh, geez, I'd have to go look at least 10 years ago.
Okay. So anyway, I go to Image. I go to the comic book store in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is 40 minutes from Greeley, where I was going to college at UNC, University of Northern Colorado. And I would go there every Thursday because there was no comic book store in Greeley. And I saw a little placard next to the cash register, and it said, come meet author Mike Barron. He's signing his new book, The Detonator. And I'm like, Mike Barron, I know that name. Didn't he do Nexus or something? I knew you had done something. And so I grabbed the book and I bought it and I looked through it. And the colors were not great because I don't think Mike paid for a colors. I think at the time what Image would do is they would put in just flat colors for you in-house. They would do that for free. So the colors were a little mismatched. They were not necessarily realistic. I guess it's a courtesy for Image to do it for free, but you get what you pay for.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, you do get what you pay for. So I said, well, I'm a better colorist than this. So I went home and I drew a picture of the detonator, like in the Matrix, like flying out a window, shooting back into a building, and I colored it. And I took it down, and I met Mike, and Mike is he's a esoteric kind of guy. Mike is really like not what I expected. I thought he was going to be like a hipster snob, because he was a famous artist. Yeah. But he's a down to earth guy. I'd come to his house and he makes, his famous chili that you make. He always makes chili. And he's just a normal guy. And I remember seeing him from like 20 feet away, and he had a hat that said Rent-A-Center on it. And I thought, damn it, Mike is a snobby hipster wearing this Rent-A-Center hat. I didn't know he wasn't wearing it. Ironically, he was just wearing it because he was wearing a hat that day.
Yeah.
And, I showed him my laptop. I had a MacBook or whatever, and it had this picture of the detonator. I'll try and dig for it here in my old stuff. But he just said to me, I have a job for you. And I said, oh, good. He's going to let me color the book. And he said, you have to draw the detonator issue 3. You've got 3 weeks. So he just pushed me into the pool. I wish I had thought about talking about this. I would have dug up a bunch of the art. But I'm not too happy about art that's 17 years old or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But so that's how I got my start. And then we started working for independent companies that Mike is friends with, an educational company in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I forget the name of the company, but we worked for them doing educational books. We did some really rich guy in Bermuda hired us to do some stuff with the great Norm Breyfogle.
Nice.
Yeah, the Batman artist. We were doing the Danger's Dozen. It was kind of a neat pulp adventure heroes. And then one day, I would always visit Jim Lee's blog. Let me get a drink here because I'm talking.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I will end my origin story as quick as I can.
No, I felt like we were going to have to play the stripper music for Mike since he was taking his clothes off there for a second.
That's right. The worst earworm of all time.
Right. So I was working on little stuff, Image Comics, independent comics, working on things with Mike, but none of it was Marvel or DC. And I would go to Jim Lee's website every day, back when everyone was doing blogs online, like Blogger.
Right.
And he had a blog called Gelato Medi, and him and the whole crew at Wildstorm would post stuff on there. They'd post art. They'd post when they go down. You can walk from Wildstorm to the ocean in under 3 minutes. It's literally 2 blocks from the ocean. And they would and it just looked so fun. And I just wanted to be such a part of it. You know what I mean? It's like they're the Lakers or they're the Dodgers or whatever. They're like one of the great franchises, and you want to be part of the team. Yep. Well, one day I was working on that book for the rich guy in Bermuda, The Dangerous Dozen. It was like 2, 3 in the morning. I just finished my work. And I went on Jim Lee's blog, and it's like, we need a colorist. And it was a black and white drawing of Superman. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm tired. It's 2, 3 in the morning. And I clicked through the blog post, and I remember 59 people had already submitted their colors, and they were all terrible. I'm like, well, I'm better than this. Yep. So I colored it up. 2 weeks later, I'm at football practice. I'm a football coach when my son was a little kid. And I get a phone call, and it's Eddie Choi, Jim Lee's longtime personal assistant. And he says, we've gone through all the submissions, and we'd like to hire you. And I'm living in Colorado at the time. I'd graduated college. My wife was going to graduate in a few months. And we decided to make our home in Colorado. We'd come from California to Colorado to go to college, and we were going to stay there. But anyway, I said, no. I told them, yes, but I want to stay in Colorado and just do the work over the internet. They said, no, it's an in-house position. So when my wife finished school in December, we moved out at the very end of 2007, and I started at Wildstorm in 2008. So that's kind of like an overall how I got from being a 12, 13-year-old seeing X-Men to finally not only getting into comics, but getting hired by my favorite artist to work at his studio. And I talked to JJ Kirby. He's an illustrator for Wildstorm for years, and he worked there while I worked there. Great guy, friend of mine. And he's the one that drew the Superman drawing, by the way, that I colored. And he said that Jim Lee handpicked me himself, that they voted as a group of artists. Some friends are, who do you like? This guy, this guy, this guy. And Jim Lee said, no, I want this guy. So I think it's just such an amazing blessing that it would be like if you wanted to play football and you grew up in Colorado and John Elway picked you to play quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Like, not only are you making it to the league, you're making it to the team you want to be on.
Yeah,
so I'll be seeing Jim next week.
Really? Where? What convention or what?
The New Mexico Comic-Con.
Cool. Very cool.
Oh, nice.
I hesitate to bring up your name.
Go ahead. I don't care if he's mad. If he's mad, I feel sorry for him. I hold no personal ill will against him. The guy changed my life by giving me a job. I have a line. Everyone has a line. And my line is a man we call Pampy. That's my grandpa, World War II veteran. That's the line.
Yeah.
Start messing around with the American way. And everyone has a line. I just like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to help you say the American way doesn't matter. That's
a lot of people who are not in comics now know who you are.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Do my grandpa proud. Earn some of what he did for me. I always think about that.
Well, and anybody that reads your comic in the represent thing where you kind of tell your story and everything will understand that it's not just like, oh, well, I'm picking this as an excuse for me to be offended. It's like, no, he actually really cares about his grandfather. This is
well, my parents were like many, many people in my generation.
Yeah.
They were divorced, and I'm not mad at my parents, and I've been married 25 years in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very hard to be married.
Yep.
Very hard to stay married. It's work. It's heavy work. You're dealing with entire other human being and everything they think and want, and there's conflict. There is, but going through hard stuff and all that is good for you. It makes you tough. So I don't hold it against my parents to be divorced. You know, you're mad about it when you're younger. And one thing that happens to you as you get older that's funny to me is you hit milestones in like your age.
Right.
Say, I'm 30. I remember, I'm 43 now, but I'll never forget my 33rd birthday. Because I remember when my parents got divorced, asking my mom how old she was, just on some other thing. And I think she was 32 or 33. And I remember thinking about it when I was 33, like, oh man, I still feel like a kid and still feel lost sometimes and still feel like I have so much to learn about life and establish myself. So it makes you like forgiving to your parents. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I could see how it could happen and this and that and the other. But growing up divorced like that, you just suffer horrible neglect. And you just do. You're never around your dad. Usually, was the case for me. And I was around Pampy a lot, and he was salt of the earth. Born in 1918, World War II veteran, loved God. He was just one of those people that they're like glowing. You know what I mean? And I know we idolize people in our heads. They're not perfect, obviously.
Right.
But I think he was the best person I ever met. You know what I mean? The most wise, the most kind, the hardest working. I mean, he was up until his death when he was like 79 or whatever. He owned a tortilla factory. That's what he did after World War II. He had a Mexican restaurant and tortilla factory that was actually huge, like in the 60s and 70s. But his children, my mom and aunts and uncles, they didn't carry it on. So I could be like the Taco Bell heir right now if they had kept going. Because it's the La Famosa, meaning the famous in Spanish. The La Famosa tortilla factory and restaurant was huge in Colorado in the 60s and 70s. But anyway, when I would visit in the summers as a middle schooler and a high schooler, he'd get up, 6 in the morning with his titanium knee and his giant arthritic hands and all buggered up and beat up, walk over to his restaurant that was on the other side of the block from where the house, climbing all over the machines, putting the dough in the machines to make tortillas. And I would look at him as a kid, fascinated that this old man who was all beat up from a lifetime of working as a ranch hand and a soldier and just everything these Great Depression people did, that he's still just willing to work his butt off.
Yeah.
And I don't know, he was just such an amazing example, and I just want to live up to what he did for me. He was one of the only people that was like kind to me. And I think when people give you their time, it lets you know on a subconscious level they value you, they believe in you, they think you can be something. If someone doesn't even give you the time to praise you or criticize you, you're irrelevant, then it makes you feel worthless. So again, my line is you don't say that about the American way. I'm sorry, you just don't do that.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I mean, we've kind of said it, and I know you said it in other things, but the real connection there too is the people that line came about in World War II, and it was kind of a rallying thing and something for everybody to be together on in America, and so it was it was directly connected to the soldiers and everything with World War II. So if you have a veteran, especially somebody, my grandfather fought in Korea and stuff, but
Right.
a lot of and I think about him, he was actually one of the only people who survived in the battlefield there, because he was injured with a bunch, and they were going around and stabbing the bodies to whoever they thought were still alive. So he rolled his eyes up in his head, and he stayed that way for days, and ruined his eyesight for the rest of his life. But he was able to come home because he did survive and was rescued and was able to come home to his wife. But then after that, like he's disabled and everything. And so yeah, to me, that's the thing. It's a disrespect thing. It's like, especially if you're doing something like that is so significantly tied to people, like you've said, and others have said too, people that gave their lives, and people that even if they didn't lose them, they were willing to,
Right.
for other people's sake, and to sit there and just throw it away. It's one of those things that stuff like that, I do feel like they should kind of take the temperature before they do it, and really see how people, okay, we're thinking about this, and
Right.
see, and talk to a lot of veterans. If you say you care, then go talk to the people you might offend and say, is this really going to offend you? And realize, because the problem with the thing that they're doing now too is, it's like they're trying to appeal to the whole world, and like, that's impossible. You
I
can't
think
every time.
that motto is also indicative of American exceptionalism, which is real.
Right.
Yeah,
And I say
absolutely.
that because you don't see thousands and thousands of people trying to break into any other country on earth.
Right.
Well, I live in San Diego. We touch the Mexican border. It's a
Right.
direct issue here. I am half Mexican. I'm half Libyan. There's a reason I'm here. There's a
Yeah.
reason my dad is here. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So and I think the people that they're not critical thinkers is the problem with these leftists like
Right.
politics people. They're very much. I went to college and got a degree, so therefore I'm smart, and they never critically think. It's like, no, you went to college and got in a lot of debt. That's what you did.
Yeah.
You didn't become intelligent. You can be intelligent with or without school. My grandfather, he has a third grade education. He's one of the smartest guys I ever met.
Yeah.
But I think that they conflate Americanness with whiteness, and I'm like, if you look at the history of this country and everything
Right.
great that has been done and created, it wasn't all white people. There was
No.
plenty of contributions from every group they claim to represent, and plenty from white people too. But this obsession with diversity is such ignorant thinking that
It's
the
frivolous.
diversity of someone is their skin color or their sexual preference. No, the diversity is their mind.
And their
Yeah.
character.
Their mind.
And the United States has contributed three great cultural gifts to the world: comic books, the cinema, and jazz.
Those are all American originals. Yes.
Oh, and more than that. I mean, with all of the inventions and everything else
A
that
lot
have,
more than that, but
yeah, have come
culturally
about.
speaking, that's
Right.
what the
And-
Yeah.
United States is known for. And jazz is a universal language, and it's beloved all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's what makes America exceptional is our concept of freedom, not whiteness. It's
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with white people, but I think the liberals have a huge problem with white people, which that makes them sound very racist to me.
Yeah.
It's frivolous.
Yeah, I want to tell them it's mean, so I never say it, but I just want to tell these progressives, like, I get it, you hate your dad. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But let's do a quote here. I look to a day when people will not be judged by the color of their skin,
Yeah.
but by the content of their character. I think someone famous said that once.
Yeah.
And basically you could change that sentence to mean identity politics is BS. That he's saying
Right.
it right there.
Right.
And if they
It's
are,
tearing this country apart.
yeah, and I would tell these woke progressives in Hollywood, if you're against MLK, you're on the wrong side. MLK says it. Content of character. That is what you think and believe and do. Not what color you are, not who you have sex with, not what country you're from, not if you're a male or female or any of the LGBTQ. We accept everyone. It's their mind I worry about.
Yeah.
What do they do? What are their because actions speak louder than words. I'm not going to blame someone for who they are. I'm going to blame someone for what they do. I could give a S. I don't know how language. I don't know how language goes on your show.
That's fine.
I do cuss too much because high school football, every other word was the
Yeah.
F word.
Yeah.
And it became a bad habit, which I'm trying to correct because I know it sounds ignorant. I could give a flip what identity group someone is in. It doesn't matter. They're all beautiful.
Right.
That pertains to the second rule of writing, which is show, don't tell.
Absolutely.
It's just as important in life as it is in comic books.
Right.
And by that I mean people are constantly telling you what good people they are by virtue of their yard signs or their press releases. They're not to be trusted. If you're going to do good works, just do it.
Yeah.
You know who never treated me any way about my race or anything were conservatives. When I finally met some and became sure, and Mike was one of the first ones I ever met. When you're a brown person like me, the way you grow up is you're just told by TV and movies, and then at school too, that white people are racist, and it just your confirmation bias clicks in. She's like, well, I saw it on TV, and then my teacher said it, so I guess it's true. Republicans are racist. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I remember telling Mike that. I said, I wouldn't be a Republican. They're all racists. And that's what I was a Democrat. I registered one. And when I got to know some conservative people, they didn't give a crap what my race was. They're like, can this guy work?
Right.
So that's what they told me. And just here's a small example. When I was a freshman in high school, instead of being put in science, I was put in AVID. And AVID was, here's how you organize your binder. here's how you do your homework. Here's how, here's how you wipe your nose, basically.
Right, right.
And everyone in Avid was brown and black. And I went to the counselor and I said, put me in the physics class like my friends. I'm not taking this dumb class. And that's the white liberal doing that to me. Like, oh, little brown man, let me be your savior because you're too dumb to figure it out yourself. And as a high schooler, I'm like, no. I'm going to science class. What are you talking about? Like, this is crazy. So I don't know. These college-educated liberals, I don't know what happened to them. I feel like the election of Trump made them all lose any sense of reason they had.
Yeah, that drove over the edge.
Like very little. But
I have a theory.
Hinged. Go. What's the theory, Mike? Go for
it. 50 years ago, the left began its long march through our institutions, and they infiltrated and took over education, the media, entertainment, and politics because they wanted to fundamentally transform this country. But I think that their intentions were never good. I think a lot of them have personal problems which they refuse to acknowledge, and that's why they identify with extreme positions.
I think you're right. I do. I think the Cold War was won by the communists, but it wasn't won on the battlefield. It was won in the classrooms at the universities. It was won on All in the Family. It was one, you know what I mean? Like TV shows, like just subversive. It was one with Homer Simpson just saying, "Oh, fathers are idiots. What have men ever done?" Okay. What have men ever done? You know, these morons walk around saying, smash the patriarchy. The same patriarchy that gave you medicine? Or is it the patriarchy that gave you the internet? Or is it the patriarchy that gave you the sewers and the plumbing? Or is it the patriarchy that gives you refrigeration and all the meat and food? That patriarchy, that's the one you want to destroy, huh? It's like,
and I also think that they succeed by appealing to the basest in human nature. There are basest emotions that radicals or progressives or whatever you want to call them are constantly preaching victimhood. And what they're appealing to is envy, resentment, and greed. And saying, listen, vote for us and you get a free ride at the expense of those awful people who are doing better than you. And this is not to ignore that there are a lot of robber barons out there and there are a lot of corporations which take advantage of the system.
Sure.
Because right now, I think we're living in a state of corporate fascism, which is the literal definition, where government joins hands with the top corporations to rig everything in their favor. And we know who those top corporations are, and many of them are in Silicon Valley.
Sure. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you know, and a great example of this too is what's happening all over the country right now, where there are wanted signs everywhere. But we have historic unemployment.
Yeah.
Right. I was at a Mexican restaurant with my mother and father-in-law and my wife about a month ago. And it was packed to the gills here in San Diego. Thank God San Diego's like a Republican military town, so we don't have to do all the crazy lockdown nonsense.
Right.
We were having lunch on a Sunday afternoon. You know, Sunday afternoons are busy after church and stuff.
Right.
And the restaurant started to empty out while we were there eating. And the tables would empty and no one would replace with people. And our food was taking forever to come. And I asked the waitress, is our food coming? She said, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry. We had to close the restaurant. There were too many customers because we only have 2 chefs or 2 cooks. And because they don't have enough employees. That, you know, they obviously didn't have enough waiters and waitresses. They didn't have enough line cooks making the food. And I'd never been at a restaurant that closed while I was eating at, 1 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And the Chili's. I was going by Chili's and they had a sign on the door. We wanted to eat there, me and my wife. And today's show brought to you by Chili's. No, just kidding. And it was 7 p.m. and it was closed. And then it was the sign, I read it on the door and it's like, we'll be closed on like Mondays and Tuesdays. And then in the evenings, we're open till 7 in the dining room and you can get to go until like 8 or 9 or something like that. It was all weird stuff. And it was kind of a passive aggressive note on the door. It's like, until we can find people that want to work hard and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like Chili's.
This is a direct result of progressive policies.
Absolutely. And it's just this Lisa Simpson hatred of father. You know, there's this bit on The Simpsons that's always made me laugh. And it sums up these Hollywood progressives in a nutshell. Homer and all the boys are playing football. And Lisa's just like, you know how they are. So she shows up at football practice and tells the coach, I think Flanders or Homer is the coach. And she's all, I bet you didn't think a girl could play football. And then Flanders tells her, oh, no, we already have 2 on the team. Join us. And then she doesn't want to play. As soon as she realizes joining the team won't piss them off, she's like, okay. And I always think of the modern progressive leftist is that way. Like, you're trying to do Star Wars or whatever. Well, I'm going to crap on it like that. And it's like, would you just talk to your father already? Like, I get it. You hate him. Just apologize to each other. It can be fixed. God can do anything.
I think California created many of its own problems, particularly one with truckers, which is why there are so many container ships waiting to be unloaded. Is several years ago, they outlawed independent operators.
Yeah, and we outlawed, what did Gavin Newsom sign, our genius governor? I think lawnmowers and leaf blowers will be illegal soon, at least gas-powered ones.
I won't miss the leaf blowers.
They also want to outlaw gas-powered generators. Now, I want you to think about that. If there's a blackout, they don't want you to have a gas-powered generator. So, plug your generator in during a blackout. Like, what the hell are they talking about?
Petroleum has been one of the greatest boons to civilization in history. And this nonsense about pollution and climate change is just the latest fad that points to the frivolity of the left, in that we live in an age, in a generation which is so accustomed to riches and ease that they can entertain bizarre scenarios and create problems where none exist. You could take all the wind power energy in the world and all the solar power energy in the world, and it wouldn't amount to 1% of what's produced by other methods, such as coal-powered power plants or nuclear. And nuclear is the way to go. I mean, we've been using nuclear power plants for years, and they're pretty safe. Chernobyl notwithstanding, they power most of Europe, and we should be building more nuclear power plants here.
Yeah, we've had rolling blackouts here in California in the summer because, there's not enough energy for all the air conditioning and this and that. Also, fire hazard, I guess, the power lines, because that's why you get California wildfires, is the power lines light off the forests and the hills and stuff like that. But we have the San Onofre power plant. Everyone here calls it the Dolly Parton Memorial. And if you see it, it's hilarious. If you're driving up the 5 freeway right on the ocean, San Onofre is on the ocean. If you're driving up the 5 freeway from San Diego to go to Disneyland or go to whatever, you'll see these 2 giant globes.
I knew you were going to
towers on top. Just if you're watching this, go look up San Onofre power plant. And again, everyone here has called it the Dolly Parton Memorial for years. And they shut it down a few years ago. And then there's the Diablo Canyon or something. It's up north or LA or something, and they shut that one down too. And it's funny when they do the blackouts in the summer, like we're a third world country, we don't have electricity in America,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? Oh, power might be off on Wednesday for 3 hours. Like, I'm still in America, right? And the power that those places make basically would more than cover what we need to get through the blackout. So that's the leadership here, but I'm not leaving. I'm going to make a go of it here. I'm going to stand and fight and vote for the right people here so we can fix things, because it's too beautiful here. It just is. I don't know how much time you've spent in San Diego. It really is.
I have. I love the breeze that comes off the water.
It really is America's finest city. There's not.
Yeah, I used to go to the con every year. I went 13 years in a row.
Yeah. But that it'll be in the 60s year round at my house, basically. Some in the low 70s too. But I don't have hot weather. Maybe a week in August.
Right.
And it never gets all that cold. It's blue skies and 60, 70 something degrees every day. It's amazing here. And San Diego doesn't have the problems LA has. It doesn't have the traffic and all the weird crime and all the crap like that. It really is an oasis in California. It's a wonderful place to live. So I'm not leaving. I'll leave eventually if they just get too crazy with the laws and the taxes. But for now, we're going to make it our home still. So.
Oh yeah, well, and thank God you guys actually have the Navy base and everything there too, which helps.
Well, the Navy base, the Marine base. This city is saved by that. I think over 25% of the population is military. This city has more military than any city, I think, on Earth, definitely in America. This city, thankfully, doesn't have the insane left-wing politics and all that, because you drive down every street here, there's Marine flags and Navy flags and POW MIA flags and just American flags everywhere.
Right.
In all the neighborhoods, So it's a great place to live. It's got a great culture.
Yeah. And I was just gonna say, and this is kind of, it's funny, like, even though this movie only came out a little while ago. A few years ago. But did you ever see Fast Five, the fifth Fast and Furious movie?
Yeah,
I haven't.
I don't
You know what? You know
Yeah.
what? The greatest, I'll say, I was like, this would never get made now because of the bad guy, because he's basically like an extreme socialist kind of person, and when he has one of the best lines. He said, "You don't," because they were asking him like, "Why do the people love you, and why do they give you so much control?" And he said, "You don't control people by taking things from people. You control them by giving them things."
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I was like, "This would never be made now." It goes so contrary to everything else coming out of Hollywood and stuff, especially to show it as a bad guy saying it.
I'll have to watch that again.
Oh, that line! Oh, when he said that line, I was like, "That is so true."
Well, it's funny that these intellectual yet idiots. As there's a great philosopher intellectual named Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Yeah,
he wrote that famous book, The Black Swan. It was like a New York Times bestseller. And basically, he talks about probability and statistics. If you haven't read The Inserto, is what he calls his 5 books, go check them out. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. But these people, they don't even believe in science. They claim to be, oh, you don't believe in science? You don't believe in science? Well, one of the tenets in science is matter cannot be created or destroyed.
right.
But when you talk about giving things for free, that's creating from nothing.
Right.
Only God can do that. We can't. So free money, free education, free healthcare. No. You guys believe science, right? Well, nothing can be created. It can only be transferred.
Right.
So if we have free something, it ain't free. It came from somewhere.
Right.
So it's nonsense. And, I think these people, they just want to get their free Trump bucks is what we were calling it forever. They want their free Trump bucks, play some Xbox, smoke some weed, and, I don't know, and eat some more Cheetos. Congratulations on really earning what your parents have given you. That's why this Renaissance painting by Jacques-Louis David is my favorite painting. It's called The Oath of the Harati, right? And these there's some conflict between the Harati clan and the neighboring one. I can't. It starts with the L or something. Anyway, and they're swearing to their father there. Those 3 boys holding their arms up. They're swearing to their father there that they will die in battle to defend the Harati. And the sister's crying in the back because I think it's like a Romeo and Juliet thing where she loves her brothers, but then her like boyfriend or guy she's courting is one of the enemy guys. And she knows she's going to lose either her lover or she's going to lose her brother. But the Oath of the Harati is so important to me because it's like, yes, Father, you gave me everything I have. And when you say father, you don't literally mean your dad. Maybe you could mean your father. Maybe your father's a good or bad person. But think critically, think deeply, and think your father, your father's father, your grandmother, and just go back 1,000 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years. And you think of warlords and dangerous animals and disease and everything these people did, suffering and dying. They loved you and they didn't even know you. They built you the world you live in right now. This world of unprecedented safety and abundance is a gift paid for with the blood and bone of these people. And you can't pay them back. They're gone. But now you owe them. So
pay it forward.
So you pay it forward. Exactly. And that's why the American way matters.
Right.
I remember when I worked at Wildstorm on staff here in San Diego, I don't know why, but for whatever reason during San Diego Comic-Con, we would work the booth. Some of us who worked in the studio, it's like, I'm an artist for Warner Brothers, but they have me handing out stickers and handing out, T-shirts or whatever. It seems strange to me, but I was happy to do it. Whatever. I'm part of the team. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4". I'm about 290 pounds. I lift weights. I'm a big man, former football player and coach. And so they would have me do big guy stuff too. If they needed crowd control, I'd stand in front of some of the movie stars. And I remember this little old man was brought there to honor him. DC brought him in. Jerry Robinson. He created the Joker. That's what he's super famous for. And they wanted me to push his wheelchair around. He wanted to go to some different things. I'm like, we got a big kid here. He'll push this guy around. I was probably only like 30, 31, 32 at the time. So I'm pushing his chair around, and he reminds me of Pampy. That's my grandpa. Remember, that's what we called him.
Right.
And he reminds me of Pampy. He's a little old man. And at the end of my grandpa's life, I told you he was all buggered up. And I love these men. I love these kind of men. And I was talking to him a little bit. And I just stopped the wheelchair and got in front of him, bent all the way down. And I just said, thank you for building this business so people like me could just walk in here and have a job.
Yeah.
It's not lost on me. What came before me was not fun. I don't think Jerry Robinson became a millionaire making up the Joker, but a hell of a lot of other people did.
Yeah.
So we owe them, and that's the American way. Are you kidding me? And I would say this I told this to Jim Lee, and no disrespect to him. He gave me a great job there. I told him, Jim, Superman's powers are not Kryptonian. And this is so nerdy to argue about stuff like this because none of it's real. But the point remains. His powers of flying and lasers and, frost breath and all the stuff he can do. He could be a tyrant king and destroy everyone and no one could stop him, right? But his character is what makes him a hero. And that character is American because his parents were American, his adopted parents, and they raised him and told him, this is how you behave. This is how you treat people. This is how everything he does is American, whether they like it or not. They can't erase it. And I said to him, how dare you do this? How dare you? And you go from the mundane to the extraordinary of how does Superman make a sandwich? Well, his mother taught him that. So it's his mother's way. How does Superman celebrate Thanksgiving? How does Superman tie his shoes? What language does he speak? How does Superman, his dad taught him to drive a car. Everything he does was taught to him. He was pretty much a blank slate culturally, right?
Right.
It's not like he had Kryptonian culture. And again, this feels so embarrassing to argue about fictitious people, but it's not. These things are important because stories are how we see ourselves. Stories are how we understand our culture and where we came from. So to say it's not the American way is absolutely ridiculous. And I've heard some people, let me get a drink real quick.
You'd think that at this point, DC might rethink their editorial policy. You'd think.
Yeah, I'll just say it now that I'm not working there and I don't need to worry about it anymore. Most of the editors don't know what they're doing. They're nice enough people, but here's the problem with editors in comics at every company. They don't have experience making comics.
That's true.
I have a lot of experience playing football. So then I had a lot of experience. When I coached it, I knew what the hell I was talking about. We have two types of knowledge in this world, and the left worships one. We have the Greek word episteme and techne, right? So epistemological knowledge and technical knowledge. Epistemological knowledge is book knowledge. It's, I went to college and I memorized a bunch of facts. I'm a big smarty pants. And by the way, I have a college degree. I graduated with honors. I was on the honor roll. I almost got straight A's at the University of Northern Colorado. And I have a standing offer. If anyone from UNC is watching this, you can have my diploma back, $5,000 cash, no strings attached. I don't want it. I hate having it. You know what I mean? It's like I abhor the university system now. So anyway, we have epistemological knowledge, that's book knowledge, and we have technical knowledge, the knowledge that comes from doing. And I remember arguing with someone in 2003 or 4 on the Image Comics message boards about this very concept, saying you could read a book about football by Peyton Manning, where he described down to the molecule how football works. Right. Then I'll push you on a football field with that knowledge and see what happens to you. You get your brains beaten in. The only way you actually know real knowledge is doing and failing and doing and failing and doing and failing until you succeed. But these college-educated liberals think, well, I read a book about that and I was able to understand the words I read, so therefore I know what I'm talking about. It's like you don't know anything if you just read it or hear it from someone else.
This didn't used to be the way. We used to have editors like Archie Goodwin and Denny O'Neil who came up creating comics and were intimately familiar with the process.
Right. And the editors at Marvel and DC and everywhere, if they really want great books and great editors, hire artists that are tired of working as freelancers. And I'm not asking for a job myself. Obviously, I wouldn't work there. You couldn't pay me enough to work there now. But I'm saying it should, like you're saying, it should be veteran artists. Just like a football coach should be a former player, not someone who read a bunch of books about football. I remember an editor, they'll remain nameless because I don't want to pick on anyone personally, but he or she was editing a book I was working on just a few years ago, and we were talking about our experiences of learning to draw and learning to do this, and they told me that they knew a lot about writing because they read a lot of books growing up. And I thought, oh, I'm a good chef because I like to eat. Like, no, dummy, that's not how it works. You're a good chef because you work in the kitchen chopping the carrots and making the stew because of technical knowledge. Epistemological knowledge is I eat, therefore I know what it's like to eat food. If you eat a lot, you're good at eating. You're not good at cooking. So if you read a lot, you're good at reading. You're not good at writing, dummy. And that's just an example of an editor at DC Comics telling me, oh, I know a lot about writing because I read a lot. It's like, holy shit. Holy crap. So
it's all right. You could say
but that's what we deal with. And again, they're nice enough people. Most of them are not rabid SJW woke. Some of them are.
Right.
But they're not I'm going to say it. They're not competent at what they're doing editorially. They're not. They're not competent people.
You're absolutely right, because they don't understand the form.
Right.
Which brings me
to
my 3 rules of writing. And the first rule is it's my job to entertain. And I never lose sight of that fact. And they should know that. That's their number 1 job.
Yeah.
And number 2 is show, don't tell.
Right. Speaking of entertain, I'm going to bring up the funniest thing I have seen in years in comics really quick. Hold on. I'm bringing it up. Talk amongst yourselves, gentlemen.
I know what's coming.
Huh?
I know what's coming.
No, this is just the brilliance of the great Mike Barron. Let me pop this out. Do you know what I'm talking about here?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's from Nexus. And by the way, you and Kelsey Shannon have to just do a ton of Nexus because it's too good. I'm going to share my screen. Do you want to pop this up here for the viewers? Hold on.
I will.
This is too good.
Do my best if we can.
You got to click the one that's going to share mine.
Yeah. Yep, got it.
Can you share it so that's big and I'm tiny?
Yep.
That is so good. So Nexus is this space hero, guys, if you're watching this, and he's flying through like a wormhole, like a black hole. And if you read the dialogue there, he gets a phone call in his ship. And no one has ever received a transmission while in hyperspace. Who could possibly? And then it's like, greetings. We have been trying to reach you about your vehicle's extended warranty. Mike, I laughed so hard when I saw that. And yeah, it's your job to entertain, and entertain you do. Mike, you're a brilliant writer. You always have been. So
thank you, sir.
that's one of the funniest things I've read in years. It's very clever.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, well, I should say this too, because this is one thing that kind of drives me crazy, especially even as a white person. And my wife is Hispanic, and she's Puerto Rican. Now, you think of how many different shades of Spanish people or Hispanic people,
right.
But yet they act like if you're white, you only have one flavor of white in you, whereas Europe has, there's people from all different shades of white with all different color, with all different cultures that came to America.
Right.
So just because you wanna badmouth and blame all the white people, it's like you don't realize they all have different cultures and stuff too. Even between the English and the Irish and then you add the French and German and everything else, and they're all white too. But it's you can't just lump everybody together like that.
You're absolutely right about the diversity within groups. Again, I know a lot about writing because I read a lot. These people are not intelligent people. They go to college, they waste all this money on degrees, they get patted on the back their whole life. Everyone gets a trophy and they think they're smart, and they're not. There's more diversity within groups than across groups. Let's take, for example, football teams. I'm a football guy. I love football now.
Me too.
You got 2 football teams. These are just 4 players each, right?
Right.
This is the Raiders. This is the Broncos. Well, within the Raiders and the Broncos, whatever I said, you have this position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. They're all different, but they're all Raiders. Over here, you have Bronco, quarterback, running back, tight end. So the same 4 as the other one, but now they're all the other team. So you can have black and white, or gay and straight. Within the groups, there's difference. Across the groups, there's not. We're all the same. So when you say all white people are like this, bull. Some white people is a quarterback, someone's a wide receiver, someone's a tight end. But if you go over to black people, someone's a quarterback, someone's a tight end, you know what I'm saying? There's diversity within the group, much more so than without the group. And that is what Martin Luther King was saying about the content of character.
Right.
That has to go to the core of the American experience, which elevated the primacy of the individual over the mob. And that's the problem with the left, is they seem unable to see individual human beings.
Which is bigotry. That's bigotry.
Exactly.
The video I put on my YouTube channel last night is saying the liberal savior is a bigot. That all people like me are exactly the same and also need their help. Yeah, I need you to get out of my way is what I need you to do. You know what I mean? So
that's very true. And the other thing that I was going to say that I kind of don't understand. I understand it because I know most of the arts and most of comics definitely leans to the left, even though I would say that over half of the comic fans and comic readers are lean towards the right.
Yeah, and they
and
stop
more than
by
that.
in Marvel and DC.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you would think that the money people who want to make money would try to have something for people of different views.
Well, can you imagine if I owned a giant corporation,
Right.
thousands of employees, and then you looked at my employee roster and you said, you don't employ one black person, but you have thousands of employees. That'd be a hell of a coincidence for me not to be racist, right? It
Right.
could happen, but man,
Right.
would that be a coincidence? If I was in a major metropolitan city, I didn't have one black employee, but I had like 5,000 employees, that would be a hell of a coincidence. So I would extrapolate that out to Hollywood and just j'accuse, as they say in French. You're bigots. Where are your conservative employees?
Right.
This industry is too big for us to not have an Avengers comic, a Batman comic that says, you know what? Leftism is bad and evil, and conservatism is good. Where is that book? Where is it?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. You know, there's stuff on the fringes. I'm talking about the mainstream, the big Hollywood studios. Why don't you have one book like that? We know exactly why you don't have one book like that. Because you are bigoted in your hiring. You're bigoted in your decisions on what to produce. Because again, if I didn't have one woman at my company and I had 5,000 employees, if I didn't have one Asian person, you would know why I didn't have that. Right. So if you don't have one conservative, but you have tens of thousands of people there, get out of here.
Well, as I said, the left deliberately moved into entertainment. There's a saying that the left targets an institution, infiltrates it, guts it, and then wears the body as a corpse.
Right.
Wears the corpse as a disguise.
Right.
And that's what's happened to every institution that they've invaded, including higher education. It's no longer higher education. Obviously, it's the entire American school system,
right,
as well as politics and entertainment and the media.
Yeah. And yeah, I was talking to a guy, he'll remain nameless. He worked at one of the most prestigious art schools in America for years. And he told me he quit because as an illustration teacher, he was having to teach critical race theory.
Yeah.
Why isn't he teaching contour and line and form and, you know what I mean, and value, like dark and light, and like that's what he's supposed to be teaching. He's not. But I think they stick this critical race into everything, and the tricky way they do it is we have to decolonize the history of illustration. We talk too much about white illustrators and blah, blah, blah. I think that's the angle they take as these sneaky little jerks that they are. But I don't know. I felt sorry for the guy, but I'm talking with him. He's going to be all right, this guy. He's going to make a lot of money doing something else.
Well, the conservative creed is that the quality of the person, his professionalism and ability to do the job, or the quality of the work, be it a comic or a song, should be the sole criterion by which you judge it. And that's anathema to the left.
Right.
Because they can't compete.
Yeah. And you, Mike, I think, and you're not some extreme, crazy right-winger, fascist or whatever, but I think you were the first friend I had that was like a Republican. And we talked.
I'm not a Republican, but thank you, Gabe. I know what you mean. I'm a conservative.
Conservative, no, because I have big problems with the GOP party itself.
Me too.
Yeah,
I think they're just part of the swamp. Or
I agree with you.
Yeah. I think most of us now are like, I don't like the Democrats or the Republicans. I'm a conservative.
But as always, it's a matter of degree. And to what degree is the left corrupt? To what degree is the right? But the right is trying to catch up because they want the money to follow the money.
Well, I think that's one thing that these people on the left that are, they think they're helping minorities and gay people and black people and women, everything. What they don't understand is the elites at Silicon Valley and at the giant other businesses in the government. They're elites, and you, to them, not to me, don't take words out of my mouth, to them, you're an ant. You're a peasant. They don't care if you live or die. You're cattle to them. You know, if I owned a ranch, I had 10,000 cattle and a couple died, I don't really care. I don't care. They're there to give me milk. They're there to give me meat. The ox, you know, in the old days, they're there to plow my fields. I don't really care if they suffer. I don't. It's sad if they do, but I don't. It doesn't keep me up at night. I'm a farmer. They're my cattle. They work for me. They're not human. And I think the people on the left are being useful idiots, and they don't understand these elites that you praise, these movie stars you praise, these Silicon Valley people you praise, these politicians you praise. You're cattle to them, not to me. I see you as a human. I see your value. But I'm not joking you. They see you as nothing more than cattle, and they don't care if you're miserable and die. They're going to use you to have their dumb progressive message because it makes them money.
That's
Or at
right.
least it should, in theory, make them money.
And the hypocrisy is nauseating. You see where the president just had a $400,000 fence put around his beach mansion, one of several mansions that he owns, to keep people out from bothering him.
Well,
Right.
he's clearly a racist.
Yeah.
You know, do you lock your door on the front of your house, Mike? That's clearly racist that you just don't let people barge in. Again, Mexican guy saying this, I do live by the border, everyone. It does need to be secure, and that's not racist. And I will say this, and both things can be true. If I were a Mexican citizen and lived there, I would cross the border illegally. I understand what they're doing. I get it. I know illegals. I live in San Diego. I know a ton of illegal immigrants. I do. They're great people. I see them mowing yards and all that. I know some personally, and my heart breaks for them. But if leftists actually gave a crap about these people, instead of having Superman help people cross the border, why doesn't Superman go down to the country and fix the evil people running the government there? Do you think that the Mexican people in Mexico that are poor, they can't succeed because there's something wrong with them, their mentalities?
No,
They
that
don't
country's
succeed because
corrupt.
the damn government is so corrupt, they don't have the opportunity. You know what I mean? How can you win a rigged game? You know, they're oppressed. Right. They're totally oppressed, those people. They're not inferior and they can't figure out how to succeed. They're completely oppressed.
It's also, it's very simple. If you value civilization, you're either for the rule of law or you're not.
Right.
And that's the theme of our new graphic novel, Thin Blue Line.
Very cool.
Yeah, and while we're talking about new stuff, did you want to share any of the stuff that you're working on now?
I will tease people, but I will not say the name of anything.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Well, I'm working on Aaron Lopresti's book, Wraith of God. I'm going to color that. I'm working on a thing for Eric July. I cannot mention. I'm working on another huge Comicsgate thing for one of the biggest names there. I'm working on Bruce Lee comics with this guy, Mike Kelly. He somehow has the rights to do sequels to Fist of Fury and Enter the Dragon and all that. So I'm working on those. And then I'm working on, I'll show you real quick. I'm going to share my screen again. Hold on.
Yeah.
I won't say what this is, but another one of my friends, the great Philippe Briones, he is one of the most diligent a lot of artists are lazy. If there's no deadline, then the book will take forever. And Philippe Briones was a lead animator at Disney when they made Tarzan, Treasure Planet, The Emperor's New Groove, Brothers Bear, that late 90s, early 2000s, Atlantis. He was one of the lead animators at Disney Paris. He's a French guy, and he's a patriot. He loves his country, and he hates what has happened to his country. So he moved to America, and, I'm a conservative, so do I love or hate immigrants? I don't know. I just signed the legal papers to be responsible for him immigrating here. And we met working on Aquaman, and we both lamented how poorly things were run at DC as far as schedules and the lack of professionalism from editors. And we created some independent comics on our own. And we made some ideas about 4 or 5 years ago when we met. And we're not going to use those ideas that we made a few years ago, but we've been having some Skype sessions the last week or so. We've reunited in the last month or two. Because he left DC a few years ago, moved back to Paris. We haven't talked much in a few years. We just kind of email, hey, how you doing, or whatever. We just talk a little bit over the last few years. But anyway, we've made up an amazing 1990s Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal style thing with a dark future cyberpunk vibe going to it. And I'm going to write it, and I'm going to color it, and he's going to illustrate it. And these are just like sketches. I said, what do you like to draw? So he just started drawing stuff. And then I looked at the drawings, and we just started making a story around it. So we're coming, and this stuff is going to be awesome. You know, if you like stuff from the 80s and the 90s when it was just fun and action and it didn't preach at you, this is some concept art from that. I have another book that I'm doing. So that's the book. I won't announce the name of that yet. Then I'll share this too. Hold on. Let me go grab it. Where is it? Okay, this one. Open with preview. Okay, so this is mine here. I can tell you what this is called if you want to share that. This is Beef Law. Again, I am the world's biggest Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. And this is set in the 1990s. You got twin brothers that are both know kickboxing and stuff. And there's Russian mafia and Chinese mafia. The story, I was going to say the movie. The story's set in Hong Kong. and just the underworld of crime there. And this family, the Volkovs, they're Russian immigrants who got out of communist Russia, and they made it to Hong Kong, which is British controlled and all that. You know what I mean? And the family gets in some debt and some trouble with the mob, and the kickboxing brothers have to fight their way out of it for their mom and dad and stuff like that. That one's called Beef Law. I gave it a very 90s name. So,
Gabe, have you seen The Last Mercenary?
Yeah, I saw that on Amazon Prime with Steven Seagal. I don't care. I'll stick up for Steven Seagal. I know his movies are ridiculous.
No, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was the new one on Netflix.
Yeah.
I saw it. It was all right. I like his 90s stuff. It was all right.
Mike shakes his head.
It was all right. It was they had some wokeness in it that was kind of irritating. So, but you can't beat Bloodsport. You can't beat Kickboxer. You can't beat Double Impact.
Great movies.
Absolutely fan. You have that amazing Van Damme story about when you and Mike Richardson went to his house.
Oh, I didn't go. Mike went, and he told me this story. They were having a meal at and of course Van Damme starred in a Dark Horse production. I forget which one it was.
Time Cop, didn't you?
Oh yeah, Time Cop. And so Richardson's there at the buffet table, and Van Damme comes up to him and says, "You come to my house, you eat my food, you steal from me." And Mike didn't know what to make of that, you know.
I think that might have been when Van Damme was having a certain problem, which he has talked about, and he is clean now. So
he'd have to be, or he wouldn't be alive.
Yeah. You know, he talks about that stuff very frankly, how he got caught up in the world of drugs. Poor guy.
A lot of martial artists unfortunately got caught up in that.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Joe Louis.
Is it a pain management thing or
no? It's a success thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Mike, was there anything else you wanted to promote?
Well, I just said, guys, look at Thin Blue Line. It's on Indiegogo. It's about 2 police officers trying to survive the night in a riot-torn city. As I said, the theme is you're either for the rule of law or you're not. My artist is a full-time police officer whom Gabe knows very well. We're all old friends. It's Joseph Arnold, and Joe has a video out that I've posted on Twitter, and I'll probably post again about how this came about. As I said, my first rule is to entertain. This story doesn't preach at all. It's not didactic. It's designed solely to grab you by the throat and drag you through the pages breathlessly so that you can't stop reading it until you're done, and it does that.
Very cool.
Very, very cool. Well, we don't want to keep you guys too long because I know we're trying to keep it short and sweet for people and not take up their whole day and actually give them time to make comics, which I need to. But hey, you know, any people that hear this, listen, we just want conservatives. And I would even say centrist. Like, you don't have anybody anywhere except mostly the far left that's represented in most of the stories. And like all of the worldviews matter. Like give people more chances, man. At least do something like the old Green Lantern, Green Arrow comics where they were trying to show except what you should do is have it written by 2 writers, one that's a conservative and one that is not a conservative, not have it written by although for what it was pretty good at showing that this is the way one of the guys who's who's leans conservative believes, and this is the way one of the guys who leans liberal believes, and they address things. I mean, I wish DC would do something like that. I wish other companies would do that. It's like, gosh, if you can't even do a conservative comic, at least give us equal billing on one comic.
Well, I think it's not even necessary to go into politics at all. All you have to do is remember rule number 1: people buy comics for entertainment.
Right, and I would say this: I agree with you, Earls, but
yeah,
and I don't want to disagree. The first rule of improv is yes and. I am a student. I went to the Groundlings in Hollywood. Actually, I was doing it for a long time, so I'm not disagreeing with you. But I would say I'm not asking these people for permission. What
Right,
did the great
no.
Jack Kirby say? Make your own school.
Yeah.
We don't need them. We don't need their books. You know how I feel? I feel like this. I'm going to throw my sunglasses on, adjust that rear view mirror, and I'm taking off. DC and Marvel, peace. I'll see you guys later, maybe. I don't know what's going to happen to you. Enjoy going out of business. Enjoy destroying a great heritage that you did not create. You know what
Thanks,
I mean?
Gabe.
So,
Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll say goodbye to everybody else too.
adios.